here to talk about using your municipal tree inventory. And part of this presentation assumes, but maybe not correctly, assumes that you have in some way done some data input. You may have met with me or one of my teammates or someone else in your town to go out in the field, use Survey 123 or field maps to collect data about trees in your public ways and public spaces. So if you haven't done that yet, know that you can, and that I'm the person that you can speak to about that, to do that training. It's usually something we do in person or online with each town individually, and it's a free inventory tool that I can help you learn how to use. So assuming that you have some data already, or someone in the past in your town has collected some data, we're going to be looking at how to use it. And if you're able, if you have two screens at home and you're able to have one screen where you're seeing my slides and another where you're able to open your web browser, that might be really useful tonight. If you're really using only one screen, then you can probably just keep it focused on the slideshow that I'm sharing. So, agenda. We've got a 10-part agenda that we're going to scoot through. And I'm kind of wishing here I had a third screen. Sorry about that. I would need a little more real estate. So the first thing I'll start with is opening up with the website addresses and data sources that we'll be talking about. We'll next go to clearing your cache. This can be really important if you've been to this web viewer before, the map viewer. We'll look at how to view your data generally, how to export spreadsheets, which are always really useful about all the trees in your town, and spend quite a bit of time on some preset filters on our web map viewer. After that, we'll scoot through how you might print a map, create these really cool tree reports about individual trees in your urban and community forest. Number 8, we'll discuss the meaning of March 30th, 2022. That's a real cliffhanger, so we'll get to that one. I'll leave you with some tips of how to do more advanced filters, and lastly, get to troubleshooting. So it's a lot of content, but I think we can get through it in the time we have allowed and have room for some questions. Gwen is going to be monitoring the chat, so you're welcome to put questions in there. And if at any point you have a question, need me to repeat something, please don't at all be shy to take your microphone off mute and say so. So a couple things to start. Number 1 is websites. So I am actually going to quickly put this main link in the chat. And this is the web map viewer that we'll be using. So this is the place where once your data is collected and it's stored in the cloud at our ANR servers, this is where your data is, where you go to view it. You'll notice that our smartphones and our tablets are great for collecting data in the field, but for actually viewing it, it's really helpful to be on your computer, on your web browser, looking at that interactive web map viewer. The link that I have below is the Municipal Tree Inventory webpage that's on our Vermont Urban and Community Forestry Program website. And you can most easily get to it by going to our website and searching for Municipal Tree Inventory. There's a lot of basic information there. We'll probably send a follow-up email with a couple of these links laid out again, but I did want to make sure you had that very first one for the web map viewer. So if you've clicked on that and your website is churning away, you'll hopefully be pulling up a map that looks something like this. This is where all the municipal tree inventory data is stored on the web. And if you've also scooted over to our website, Urban and Community Forestry Program website, this is our homepage with some information about municipal tree inventories. For those of you who are here and are already GIS experts, you're using ArcGIS or some other kind of GIS program, and you're like, hey, I don't want to use your web viewer, I just want the data. I want to tell you now, near the beginning, that you can go and download that from Vermont's Open Geodata portal. And you do that by going to the website and entering in municipal tree inventory. And that brings you to the ability to download a bunch of data, including shapefiles. And if all of this is Greek to you, you don't use shapefiles, you don't use GIS, no worries at all. We're not going to be using that tonight. But for those of you who are wondering where that data is and you want to do some more sophisticated mapping, you'll find it in the Geodata portal. And lastly, a couple resources. I'm going to put these links in the chat as well. We have a tree inventory guide, which gives you a bit more information about how you're doing your field work, just so that you know that's there. And another guide, a municipal tree inventory user guide for using the tool, which many of you have already, that we actually don't share on our website because it has our username and password in it. And we just try to keep that a little bit closer to our chest to know who's using the tool. We have had some folks in other municipalities use the tool, or other states rather, and it's definitely created a few problems on our back end. So I've just put my email address there as a way for you to get that guide. And this is what they look like. You may have seen those before already if you've worked with me, but just so letting you know that those are there. Okay, so we've made it through step 1. Step 2, clear your cache. Now, for those of you who have never been to the Municipal Tree Web Map Viewer before, that particular web page that I shared, I would say don't worry about this at all. You're in great shape. But for those of you that have been there before, this is just kind of a pro tip for how to make sure you're seeing the most current version of our viewer. Clearing your cache is helpful for understanding how to get the most refreshed web page in any instance. And if you have never done that or can't remember how to do that, which is essentially where I am each time I have to clear my cache, it depends a little bit on your browser. I've got Chrome up here, and I go up to the dots on the top right and go to clear browsing data. And from there, I'm able to clear my cache. So I'm seeing a few confused looks of like, what on earth is a cache? It's essentially a way that your web browser keeps older information and makes it quicker to pull up. And by clearing it, you're going to be able to see our most recent updates. I'm going to leave it at that for now, but if anyone has questions as we go along, please don't hesitate to ask. Clearing your cache has nothing to do with trees at all. It just helps you see the most recent information. Moving right along to step 3, finally, viewing your data. So once you've gone to our web map viewer, which is here, you're met with this homepage. And hopefully some or most of you are at this web page right now. This is a web address. You can access it from any computer that's got a web browser, and you're able to enter that URL that's in the chat. From here, you're going to choose a town, and most likely your town. And for the sake of tonight's exercise, I am actually choosing the town of Linden. I've got to spend a lot of time there over the past few years, and I'm pretty familiar with all of those tree icons. So once you choose that site, the web browser will zoom you into that location. So if anyone is using the web browser at home right now and you're wanting to go to your town, you're very welcome to do that. Now, each icon in here is displaying a data point, the data that you collected. And at present, it's showing the green icons as being trees in good condition. So we're looking at the urban and community forest of Lindenville, and seeing a lot of green dots that are those healthy trees. Yellow are in fair condition, red are in poor condition, and those gray circles are the vacant locations where there either used to be trees or we may be putting a new tree. So each one of these points is your data. And for those of you who have done data entry before, remember that we all use the same username and password. So that means everyone is here contributing to this statewide data set. If you were to zoom in and choose a point to click on it, I just picked one randomly here, you'll get a little dashboard that shows just a snippet of all the information that you collected about that tree. So in this instant, we're looking at tree number 7 on Center Street in Linden. It's a sugar maple in good condition, 12 to 18 inches in diameter. It was inventoried initially in 2015, but its last tree health survey, so the last time someone was there checking up on it, was June 21st, 2022. And then there was a maintenance survey entered the following day. And then got a little picture. This is where it's great to take pictures of urban and community trees as opposed to the deep forest, because you really get a rolling breadcrumb of all the images of that tree through the years, particularly cool if it's a young tree. So that is generally how you view your data, how you can check that it's there. And again, it is your town's data. It's not something that we kind of go in and enter for you unless we happen to be in the field with you. But that's where your data is visible after you enter it in Field Maps and Survey 123. So we're already at number 4, exporting a spreadsheet. So often, if you haven't used a lot of web map viewers before, you're kind of looking for something that's a list. It's just a little easier to see. You want to know how many sugar maples do we have? How many red maples? How many Norway maples? What size are they? What street are they on? And some of us might be quite comfortable working in Microsoft Excel or another spreadsheet program. So this is why I want to show you this tool first. And that way you're able to have that data on hand and start to sort it as you choose. So I've gone back to Linden here. And remember, we've got kind of a whole bunch of toolbars at the top. This was where we selected a town, but the one second from the right is a tiny Excel icon. And if you click on that, it asks you to choose a town. Hopefully you're still choosing the same town that you're in. And in this instance, I chose Linden. And then it said, would you like to download an XLS file? So a table that you can then open up and sort the data as you choose for those who are comfortable that way. I click OK, and it lets me name the file. I always recommend putting the date of your download on the file. So that way you know the information that you saw, which is now static, it's not updating in any live way, was a little snapshot from where Lindenville's tree inventory is today, 2024-02-07. So just a tip that's helpful for data management. That will go to your downloads folder, and you'll be able to open that up in any Excel viewer. And really, you'll probably see a lot of information in there. But again, if you're comfortable sorting information in Excel, it's a great tool to start to get a sense of the layout of your urban and community forest, particularly regarding species. So now, number 5, we're moving along, using filters. And this is kind of where we'll spend a little bit more of the presentation. So you can start to see how some of the online tools are useful to filter out different categories of information in your web map viewer. So we've got a bunch of preset filters in here that do some of the work for you. And back in Linden, I zoomed in a little to Bandstand Park. If any of you have been there, it's a great spot where the community gathers a lot. There's a farmer's market there. There was initial inventory done in 2015, but we were back in 2022 and 2023 with a group of students doing some updates there. And what I did here on the web viewer is, you see I put a red circle around an icon that looks a bit like a funnel up in the top right there. And that's the filter tool. And again, the things that have popped down are preset. They're hopefully helping you get to some of the information that you want to see quickly. So I'm going to walk you through what each of those are. And I definitely encourage you on your own time to kind of click through, do your own filters. Again, we're looking at snapshots of my program as opposed to me using it live, just so you're not waiting for the data to load each time. So going through these filters, the first one is tree species, and this is a super common way to want to see your urban and community forest. You want to know where are all the maples, where are all the crab apples, maybe where are all the sugar maples specifically, or the Norway maples. And you can do that by toggling on the filter. You see that kind of little green button, that slider on and off. And then you have the ability to select one or more species. And this is the drop-down list of all the species that are in our urban and community forests. So you can use that search button to maybe shortcut your way to the species you're looking for. For example, if it doesn't start with A, instead of scrolling all the way to the bottom, you might enter Zelkova and get yourself right to Z. But what you can also use this tool for is entering a keyword. So I've entered here the word maple, and I'm not sure, I want to capture any tree species that has the word maple in it. So I've got Freeman maples, Norway maples. I can check whichever ones I want. And I've also got just maple. If you remember from when you're doing some inventory, if you're not sure what species it is, you're not sure what type of maple, but you know it is a maple, you can just write maple. So that helps you kind of capture everything from that scene. So you've got a bunch of ways to filter by species. And just in this example, I think here I selected all the maples. I wanted to know in Bandstand Park, which trees are all the maples, and gave it a second to think about it. And this was the image it spit out for me. So I filtered out the other dots that were not maples, and now I've got everything that's a maple on my screen. So I won't do this image for every single filter going forward, but this is essentially what happens. It starts to show you the relevant information that you're looking for in a map format. So going back to the filters, the next filter I've got is a shortcut for all ash species. So you might capture that by just filtering by species, but because ash are of particular concern regarding emerald ash borer, we've got a bunch of different ways to highlight all the ash trees that are in your database. So there's a quick toggle here that will grab anything in the Fraxinus genus. So that's green ash, white ash, and anything just called ash. We don't have black ash in our urban tree inventory. It's not something you would find planted in a community, although we're starting to maybe reconsider that for a community forest, but that's how that toggle works. Quick laundry list here. Tree condition. If you're wanting to show trees only by condition, show me all the trees that are dead, show me all the trees that are in poor condition. You're able to toggle that filter on and select one of the conditions that you want to see and watch the map behind you filter for those tree data points. Next, we've got tree diameter. And if you remember, you're not actually entering a number when you do a tree diameter data entry, you're entering a diameter class. So if you measure a tree that's 8 inches in diameter, you're going to stick that in the 6 to 12 inch diameter class. And similar to the species, you can select one or many diameter class. An example for using this might be, you know that your town has some limited tree care equipment. They've got a chipper perhaps, and the maximum diameter that chipper can take is 12 inches. And so you might be looking for all the trees under 12 inches, or maybe all the trees over 12 inches that you might need to contract out to have someone else remove or manage. So that can be the type of management idea where you would be searching by diameter class. Alternatively, remember, we use diameter often as a proxy for age. You know, how old is our forest? How many trees do we have that are 24 inches and bigger? And that helps you to understand, you know, what kind of age classes you're seeing in your community forest. I've got a couple toggled on all at once here. These are just on-off filters that you can choose as you wish. Show me all the vacant sites. So those are sites that used to have a tree and don't anymore, or are sites where maybe you've considered doing future planting. Show me any trees that have been removed, or show me trees that are scheduled, you recommended that they be removed. And within that, there was that option of who's going to do the removal. Yes, we recommend removal, and it's the municipality, or it's a utility tree, or it's a private tree. So this is not saying that there is some kind of law or regulation in place. This was just your data entry in the field with your recommendation for its management. So I grouped all those together because they work fairly similarly. We've got a couple survey filters here that are by date, and this is kind of neat. There's 3 categories. This is the tree survey date, the planting date, and the last maintenance. And all of these filters are different, but they work in the same way. And I'll maybe use the example here of a tree survey date. So you want to know what are all the trees that we've looked at in the last 2 years? You could turn on the tree survey date toggle, put in the date of 2 years ago, so February 7th, 2022, and then the map will show you every tree that you've looked at, that you've entered a tree health survey in since that date. Alternatively, you might want to find out, which trees have we not looked at. And so this would kind of give you the inverse relationship of trees that you've viewed or trees that you haven't gone to visit and since a certain date. I like the planting date filter. It works just the same, but that can be really useful for community watering efforts. So show me all the trees planted in the last year, in the last 2 years. And it just spits out that map of where all your new trees are. And you can give that map to either your volunteer or your public works crew or whoever is doing creative watering that spring and summer season, and know where those new trees are that you'll need to be watering. A couple more filters here are just on-off filters. Again, information that you had entered in the field, trees that need consulting, need maintenance, or that you're wanting to monitor. Those are just on-off buttons as well. And again, this was all information that you would have entered in the field during your inventory. So nothing fancy about those filters. You can turn them on or off. And then our last two at the bottom there, just to pull up how those work. If you remember, when you look at a tree, you say where it is, what it is, what species, its size, its condition, and then you have the option to talk about its management. So you had a bunch of yes/no questions in your survey. The most common one being shade tree. Is this a municipal shade tree? The tree that planted or maintained, planted by the municipality in a public way or public place. So being able to filter trees by the management type can be pretty useful. Show me all the trees that are the utility right-of-way trees, because I'm not going to worry about those with my municipal hat on. Another way to catch your ash trees there. Show me all the ash trees. Show me all the private trees that we've got in our inventory. So you just have different options, different ways to sort your data visually there. And you can, each time you click on that, it'll show you your yes or no options. And then the very last one, and this is our most beefy content here, is maintenance required. If you remember, for each tree, there was also a maintenance survey that you could fill out with a recommendation of what type of maintenance should happen. And the most common ones for me to put in there are pruning and adding mulch. So let's say I want to set up a map that shows me where all the trees to be pruned are located. I can toggle on maintenance requirements and look for where pruning equals yes, and it will spit out that map for me. So in each instance, there's a map kind of pulling the data and showing that data behind you of your town. I didn't show that for you here just because for sake of brevity, but that is how those preset filters work and what that funnel shaped button is on your screen. You made it through the biggest part. We'll go on to the last 5 parts, which are a little bit quicker. The next section here, 6, is on printing maps. So as fun as it can be to scoot around online and have your data coming on and off and be live while you're talking to your select board, your other teammates, your conservation commission, sometimes it's helpful to print something static. And we're able to do that using the little icon up at the top right that looks like a printer. And when you press that icon, it will start to light up an area that it's suggesting that you might want to print. You're able to rename the title. I called this Linden Bandstand Park. My data set here was trees that need pruning, which is a lot of them apparently. And I was able to enter a scale that showed, the area that I wanted to print in my map. And then I pressed that magic button, print, waited a moment, and it spits out an 8.5 by 11 PDF. So this is now static. It's something you can print with a printer. You can email it to someone. It's not something where you're interacting live, but it can just be really handy for any of those filters that you showed. These are all the trees that need pruning. These are all the ash trees around town. These are all the trees greater than 24 inches diameter, whatever it is that you're trying to show. That's how that print works. And it is pretty useful when you're just wanting to stick something in a report or make it very brief and to the point. Number 7, creating tree reports. So this is kind of neat. This is something we invented just on this recent update of the tree inventory tool. And it allows you to share more information about a single or a small number of trees. It's kind of a data intensive on the back end. So you don't want to generate a report for all, 442 trees in your urban and community forest. But if you've got 1 or 2 trees that you're trying to say something specific about, that little tool, the little clipboard up at the top there, that is how to create a tree report. And what I click that, and what it asked me to do is add a location. So you're looking to create a little shape, an outline around the trees that you're wanting to have special reports on. So if I click add the location and I'm able to create, I decided to look at these 2 trees over right near the road. I'm still in Linden and Bandstand Park. I drew a little polygon around it, double clicked when I was done and pressed next. And it thought for a little bit. It gives you kind of an encouraging message that says, don't quit, I'm still working on this. And it gives you a couple of reports. So kind of if you're willing to share information about a certain tree, then you're able to print out a 1-page report. So this tree here is a sugar maple in poor condition, 18 to 24 inches diameter. It hasn't been maintained since 2015. It's a shade tree. It has some deadwood, so on and so forth. The other characteristics that you pulled out. You'll see that the tree is sideways, of course, which is a good time. Jane tilts her head. It's a good time to let you know that it's great to use the landscape position of your phone or iPad when you're taking a picture of a tree. Sometimes there can be a bit of difficulty about how it exports. But it allows you to share information about one tree in particular, including a bunch of notes. If you look on the right there, this was a brand new tree that we planted. So the notes, it was planted bare root, is from Schickdals, it was delivered to Burlington. You're able to give a little bit of history about the tree there and keep it in your tree report. And those are all entered by you in the field using your tree health surveys and tree maintenance surveys. So that is the tree report tool. I'd recommend keeping it to maybe 3-4 trees or less all at once, just because it has to generate that whole report. But those come out as PDFs, so nothing fancy about how you can store those, share those, or print those. Next, number 8 of 10, a little cryptic, but the meaning of 3/30/22. This comes up a lot when we're looking at our data. And long story short, we did a big upgrade to our database in 2022. And on the 30th of March in 2022, all of that old data from our initial platform got scooped up and put into our new platform. So the initial inventory date of when someone first went to that tree has remained static, remained the same. But the last tree health survey, if it hasn't been completed since March 30th, 2022, still shows up as that date. So here's an example. I'm still in Linden. I went over to a tree I knew I hadn't visited in 2021 or 2022 and pulled up its little dashboard. So I can see it's a northern red oak, 42 inches or more in diameter. It's massive. Definitely wondering why I didn't get to check it out. And it's possible it's been taken down since then. But you can see the inventory date was the 10th of September, 2015. That's when someone first went to that site. But the last tree health survey was on March 30th, 2022. And here's that date that pops up a lot. So in this case, I know that no one was there in March 30th, but that's when that big scoop of data happened into our new platform. So I know that no one's actually been back to do a new tree health survey since that initial inventory date. If I had been there in June of 2023, you'd see that date pop up. So just to alleviate a little confusion ahead of time, that's the meaning of that date popping up very often. And I wish we could go and fix it back to your original time you were there, but we literally imported tens of thousands of points, so that was where it landed. You're almost done. 2 more sections. Advanced filters. If you're a super clever web map viewer and those preset filters were not enough for you, you want to do more, there are ways to set up other advanced filters. And I'll give you just a preview of that. And if you enjoy this type of expression building. We can talk about that later at another time. But at the bottom of your tree web map viewer is a little gray arrow, and I've got it circled there. When you click on it, it pulls up what's called the attribute table. So every single point has a bunch of data attached to it, and those are called the attributes. That's everything from the street name to the collection date and time, any comments that were put in. And so that table can pop up to show all the trees that are on your map right now. So you have the option from here to do your own custom filter. You click on the options button there, go down to the filter. And from there, again, happy to talk another time with you if this is something you like to do or you're experienced with, is you can create what's called expressions. So if you have something very specific that you want to filter for, you can do that yourself by saying, well, I want to know all the American mountain ash that were planted after July 3rd, 2022, and are less than 6 inches in diameter, and so on and so on and so on. You've created something very specific. You can build that filter through this attribute table. And if that is Greek to you, totally fine. Hopefully most of the filters that you will need are covered in that shortcut drop-down list. And lastly, troubleshooting. So this is pretty easy to explain. Sometimes bad stuff happens and something isn't working, and you're there in the field and it was working 10 seconds ago and now it's not working. There isn't a whole lot to say about it except my phone number and email address. And if you can't reach me, Eric Engstrom works in our IT department. He does all of this amazing GIS work, and he is often the one who's pressing the reset button back at the headquarters. So for all of you who've used this tool already, you'll know that it's free. It was created by our team through the years, both Elise and I and Eric and many other folks who contributed to some of the upgrades. But the fact that it is free means that there isn't always someone right at your fingertips available to fix the problem as it happens. So we do our very best. I'm usually fairly quick to be able to reach Eric or do some reboots from my end. But just so you know, if something illogical is happening, it's probably not your fault. And you should give us a call or a text or an email and let us know what the issue is, and hopefully we'll be able to help you right then and there, or be able to get to that fairly quickly within the next day or two. It's always great to do a little test trial in the field before you kind of pack up and get set to do your entire field day. Maybe do a short field day, a short field 20 minutes to make sure that everything's working correctly. You can see it on your web viewer, you're happy with what you're seeing before you go out and do more inventory. So that has amazingly got us to the end of our slideshow. I'm going to stop sharing, and I think I can tell myself to stop recording.